Well, joining us now, Democratic strategist Dave Jacobson. He's a campaign consultant with Shulman Communications.
And Clint, a Trump supporter and a leadership and performance expert. Who better to talk about Donald Trump than a leadership and performance expert? Clint, why doesn't anyone want to be Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate?
They say they don't want to be his running mate, but let's see what they say when he asks someone to be their running mate. He's a very persuasive person, and when he turns on the charm, like when I met him, he was so charming to me and my wife. It's a very different perspective than what he's putting out on the news. He's posing as a tough guy and a mean person because he knows he's going to have to deal with all kinds of bullies and thugs in the international political world. But in person, he's very, very persuasive and charming.
Interesting that you say he has to do with bullies and thugs. Most people say he's the bully.
He is. He's being very tough. He's projecting an image that he wants to put out there into the world. But when you meet him in person, let's see you say no to Donald Trump. It won't happen.
Dave, what are the potential problems here for someone teaming up with Donald Trump, you know, if they want to have a political future?
Right. I mean, well, that's part of why Ted Cruz got out of the race, right? He thinks that, you know, he saw the writing on the wall. This thing's just all falling apart, and Donald Trump is poised to lose. His unfavorables are too high. He's just, it's too much at this point for him to catch up to Hillary Clinton. At least that's Ted Cruz's perception, I think, at this point. Look, the reality is it's unprecedented for a candidate to have candidates for VP turn them down at this point. But look, I think candidates like John Kasich stayed in the race so long because they were running for VP or at least a cabinet position at this point. I think it'd be really smart for Donald Trump to pick someone like Robert Gates, because one of his biggest issues is he's he's erratic when it comes to foreign policy. He's all over the map. You know, he says nations shouldn't have nukes, but then South Korea and Japan and Saudi Arabia should have nukes. You know, we need to protect our allies, but then I'm going to pull out of NATO. I think he needs someone who's going to sort of be a steady hand on the foreign policy front, and Robert Gates would be a good candidate for that.
But he's got Ben Carson and Chris Christie as part of the efforts to find him someone. What do you make of that?
Governor Christie has a lot of experience in this realm, and he's a good advisor. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, Donald Trump's going to make up Donald Trump's mind.
Or Chris Christie may put himself forward to be VP.
Like Dick Cheney. Yeah. Okay, we've got a presumptive nominee on the Republican side, Donald Trump. You know, will he be presidential? Wolf Blitzer asked him that today. Will he change those tactics? Will he tone it down? Nope. Listen to this.
I would say yes. I mean, and again, a lot's going to depend on how they treat me. I mean, if they treat me in a certain level, I'm not looking to do more. You know, you've seen I'm a counterpuncher more than anything else. I don't really like hitting people first because I don't know how. I've always felt that I'm better, like certain boxers, they're better counterpunchers. I've been very successful. I've only been doing it for 10 months, Wolf.
So in other words, what he did in the primaries, he's going to do in the general election, but turn off a lot of voters who aren't Republicans that he's going to need come the general election. He's
got more voters that have ever voted for a Republican in a long, 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 long time. He's doing great, and I think that the Donald Trump show will continue to steamroll its way as the ratings mega buster of all time. And that's what we're going to keep seeing.
Dave, take a listen to what Hillary Clinton said to our own Anderson Cooper earlier on today when she was asked, essentially, is she ready for Trump-style politics and this kind of election campaign? Take a listen.
If he wants to go back to the playbook of the 1990s, if he wants to follow in the footsteps of those who have tried to knock me down and take me out of the political arena, I'm more than happy to have him do that.
You're ready for that?
Oh, please. I mean, look, this is to me a classic case of a blustering, bullying guy who has knocked out of the way all the Republicans because they were just dumbfounded. They didn't know how to deal with him, and they couldn't take him on the issues because they basically agreed with him, and they didn't know how to counterpunch.
Is she going to be able to stay on the issues or essentially just be dragged into the mud with Donald Trump? Some would say he's already dragging her there.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've been combating each other for months now at this point. I mean, the general election started after New York, essentially, right? Look, the reality is I think she understands that her unfavorables are high. So are his. Hers are better than his. But I think she understands that she's got to take the gloves off. I think, frankly, she's going to be embracing sort of the 2012 Barack Obama playbook, where he sort of went in, oh boy, What is that?
What is that? Please show this to our
It's the hot
viewers.
sauce. I mean, she's going to say whatever she needs to say to get voters to vote for her. And one day it's going to be hot sauce, and she said it on TMZ the other day.
She was on a radio show,
right?
and she, which was a radio show basically for African American audience essentially, and she said to
she says she has hot sauce in her purse.
She did,
like the Beyonce song. Okay, so show me the hot sauce. How come she doesn't pull it out?
I have to say, it has been reported for a long time that Hillary Clinton has an affinity for spice and
great. She says she got it in the purse, but she doesn't have the purse with her. Show me the sauce, Hillary.
See, the gloves are already off.
Already rolling in the mud.
The mudslinging has begun.
Okay.
No, it's sauce slinging. It's different than mud. I mean, it's just, look, she just is going to say anything to get voters to vote for her.
There is that perception, Dave. I mean, all jokes aside, there is a perception that she's not genuine, that she's just focus group tested and poll driven, and she chooses her words like a lawyer all the time.
Right, and she's going to paint the picture that Donald Trump is a risky bet. I think the reality is there's no way that she's going to get out of her comfort zone when it comes to being sort of calculating and cautious. That's just who she is. She said she's not a natural politician, but I think it's incumbent upon her as a candidate against Donald Trump to sort of drive home the message that he's a risky bet. He doesn't have the experience. And is he in it for himself, or is he in it for the American people?
Oh, man. He is so not in it for himself. Okay. I mean, he doesn't need this.
Okay, we want to get to this new ad which Hillary Clinton's people put out. It's sort of an indication of what we can expect in this campaign.
I am a unifier. We're going to be a unified party.
He is a con artist.
A phony.
Donald Trump is the know-nothing candidate.
Donald is a bully. This is an individual who mocked a disabled reporter.
I don't remember.
Who attributed a reporter's questions to her menstrual cycle.
Blood coming out of her wherever.
The most vulgar person to ever aspire to the presidency.
The man who seems to only feel big when he's trying to make other people look small.
Don't worry about it, little Marco.
Okay, Clint, your reaction, and then Dave to follow.
People know that people say not nice things about Donald Trump because he's beating them in the polls. People see through these trumped up commercials by the opponents, and they recognize it for what it is. The American public has a very attuned BS meter, and they can see that this is just political muckraking.
They are using his own words against him, though, Dave.
I mean, look, where the other 17 Republicans failed in the primary was they didn't attack Donald Trump early enough in the race. And I think Hillary Clinton understands fundamentally, and I was saying this earlier, she's got to embrace the 2012 playbook that Barack Obama did against Mitt Romney, sort of drive home the message like Barack did against Mitt Romney with Bain Capital, that he's in it for himself, he's in it for his big, wealthy donors. I mean, the reality is she's got to sort of paint the picture that this guy can't be trusted. He's in it for himself, not for the American people. And she's the one who's sort of going to bring the pragmatic experience that we need to solve problems and get things done in Washington.
And with that, thank you guys. Leave the hot sauce, I'll take it home.
Amen.
He's going to carry it in his handbag.
Show me the sauce, Hillary.
Clint Arthur, Dave Jason, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, we have more U.S.